couldn't help but wonder, if taxes are truly unavoidable, why do they always feel like a bad date we never agreed to? Welcome to Tax and the City. I'm Tatje from Taxum, your personal tax boutique in Zurich. Here we talk taxes simply and honestly. Sometimes just you and me, sometimes with guests, always rooted in real life. And just like that, something mandatory becomes a little more delightful. So, hi Xenia. Thank you so much for being in my podcast, in the Tax and the City podcast today. It would be great if you could introduce yourself quickly.
Hey, Julie, it's really great to be here. And I was just thinking, she's probably going to ask me, to introduce myself and who am I? And so I thought, okay, so the first thing to say is I'm a mother. I see myself as a critical thinker, and newly I'm now also a runner. So I thought, oh, well, then that means I'm a mother thinking runner. And I thought, oh, well, hang on, maybe that's not what I want to say.
Someone could get it wrong. Yes.
So no, I mean, in all seriousness, that I've served for more than a decade in banking now, leading global transformations and global teams. I continue to be curious and engaged as ever in delivering meaningful work for banks. I just do it now with a broader lens. Right. Today, I continue to work with major banks around the world. And I also collaborate with wealth tech, and particularly to reimagine client investment journeys, particularly with a focus now in the age of AI.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, as if that's not enough, I also run a very small brand creative on the side, something a little bit different, but I feel it's a complementary outlet.
Okay, yeah, that's always good to have something like that. For how long have you been in Switzerland? Because you are not, as maybe we can tell, you are not Swiss originally.
Yes, no, I've been in Switzerland now for 18 years. So it's been a while. My daughter was born here. Yeah. I mean, I think it's the longest place I've spent.
You apparently like it. Or you
Yeah.
just got stuck.
I think I like it. I really like it. I think it ticks a lot of the boxes that I'm looking for.
Yes.
It was, it continues to be a very exciting place. I'm also happy to now boast that Zurich now is also very exciting from a culinary perspective. Lots of new places to eat, and I love that now we're coming into autumn. There's so many colors and it's so beautiful outside. That's not what you get. I'm originally from Hong Kong, so we don't have 4 seasons. So yeah, I feel very blessed.
That's great. It's great. So you did have a corporate job and you had one job, as I know, and now your life is very different. So maybe you can tell us something about that.
Yeah, well, you and I, we go back a little bit. Back in your previous company, I mean, way back when, as you said, I was, my world was much smaller. I was with one employer. My universe was isolated to that one company. Everything was quite simple. At the end of the year, I got one document with my taxes, benefits, pension contributions, all in one document. And then it was easy. It was quite easy. Things changed for me. And that's why it was so great to discover that you'd launched your boutique firm. Because for me, it was very serendipitous. I was like, oh yes, oh my God, I hadn't realized how much I missed you, and I know that it's odd to say that you miss your tax advisor, but I really did. I really did.
It was actually, thank you again. It was the sweetest thing a client ever said to me, potentially. Yes, and I'm gonna keep that email for dark days and dig it out.
Yeah, because I think, I say that it was serendipitous that you started your own boutique firm, and that you came back into my life, and it was, around about that time as I was exploring sort of new avenues and new opportunities, that I had a lot of things pulling me in different directions. So I had opportunities to advise banks, to collaborate with fintech companies, to do a little bit of teaching, coaching, sort of lots of different things.
And you even
So,
went to university, didn't you?
yes, that's right, that's right, and that was part of my exploration, and my whole world expanded. I wasn't in this little capsule universe. I discovered there's an entire world outside of a bank, and I really needed. It was great timing because I also needed a bit of structure around what do I want to do? How am I going to do it so that I can continue to grow within that structure? That's when you came along. Well, that's when you came back into my life.
And they lived happily ever after. No, it doesn't end there. I didn't just like open Taxum, but we started working together again. And as you said, your tax situation went from standard to quite individual, because like you did not have one employer any longer that handled all the stuff for you, but you had part-time employments and then things you did as a freelancer. Something maybe was just a one-shot project. And the big question was, how can we structure all this to be compliant in terms of taxes, social security, and then also set it up in a way that suits your life? Because there's different ways how you could get around organizing something as kind of like a portfolio career. So this
Hmm.
is a very modern word that congrats, you now do have a portfolio career. And yes, and it is different. So how does it feel to have all these different I think it's different energies potentially as
Yes,
well, right? Because it's
yes.
not just one team and one boss, one company. Do you feel that doing things when you do them as a freelancer, does that feel different to the things that you do when someone hires you part-time?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, my days are definitely much more fluid now.
Yeah.
And I don't have a any particular routine any given day or any given week. Yet at the same time, I have to say I am much, much more grounded. I choose to work on projects, on commitments that I believe in, and I choose and work with people who are equally disciplined in delivering excellence. So my energies and my efforts are completely aligned with the
Yes.
people that I work with nowadays. And and I am able to do that. I'm able to devote that kind of focused energy to the projects that I work on, the initiatives uh, with banks and wealth tech companies, mainly because you help me a lot to sort of structure, to take off or reduce that cognitive load. I always had in the back of my mind, how is this going to, if I take this on, how is this going to change my tax situation? If I do this and do it that way, what does that mean for my pension situation, my pension contributions? What are the one or the two things I need to really set straight?
Yes.
And because I have that foundation, you and I, we sat together, I think a few times. For you, I'm so sorry. You were
You don't
incredibly
need to be
patient.
sorry. This is what I'm here for.
You were incredibly patient, and I think that's what you need. I think that was also something. I'm lucky enough and old enough to realize you have to be clear about what you want out of your life, what you want to build, and then you need to not be shy to ask for help from experts. I'm a very big believer in looking for the right experts who are reliable, obviously competent, reliable, and trustworthy. So I like working with people like that. And I found that with you, definitely with you and the rest of your team. so that I don't have to think about those nitty gritty little tiny administrative details. And you and I sat together more than a few times where, in the beginning it was sort of exploratory. I mapped out what I was doing. We looked at options, and then, we kept iterating, mainly because I couldn't remember what what was there.
No,
But
I
then,
don't feel it was like you couldn't remember, because it is like, I think what is typical for a setup like yours is that things are not 100% fixed in the beginning, and it's going to be those three projects, and it's going to be like this and this and this. But things are evolving.
yeah.
Then someone maybe says, "Oh, listen, we prefer hiring you," and the next one says, "I checked, I can't put you on our payroll. Can you please do it as a freelancer?"
Mm,
Or then something pops up and it's just like, oh, next week there will be this project. So how to react to this? So I think especially in situations that are subject to so much change like yours,
mm.
it is important to be in touch. And it doesn't require sitting together for 3 hours and discussing
No,
like the
no.
entire thing over and over again. It was just, I think we always just discussed the delta. So
Yeah.
it was like, okay, we ended there last time. Now there's this and this that added on top, or one thing didn't develop as imagined. So
Mm.
how will we adapt to that? And so this is like, from my perspective, it wasn't because you didn't remember.
Yeah, I mean,
Things
but
changed.
I mean, that's very gracious. I think that, I just believe that, I was moving from a simple situation where there was not a whole lot to manage. And now I am managing, I have decided to manage my own professional life. And when you do that, you want to be, because it's new territory. I really wanted to be that's the kind of person that I am. I need to really understand, what do I need to do? What are my options? And that's where that patience, your approach was exactly the one that I needed, that I still need, where you sit me down and say, look, this is what we discussed last time, this is now what's happened, this is how we could these are your options, and then we keep going. So I always felt I had a structure, a framework from which to move and build and do my own thing, right? So I always had that peace of mind, I guess, and I never really. I mean, you just took that worry off my back, right? So I didn't
Yeah.
have to worry that. I always came away from our conversations like, right, okay, I have a direction. I know where I'm going.
So that's good. So then this is where I must say, yeah, job done. Very good. Because what also is special, I mean, there are questions in my professional life, and when clients are asking me things where I can give a clear yes or no answer, or where I can clearly say, we have to do X and Y. But especially in such a fluid, let's call it a fluid situation like
Yeah.
yours, there is no black and white answer, and there's no, listen, Xenia, we need to do this. Clear was we have to do something, but still, in the end, like what I tried to do is put you in the position to decide between two good options, and to find a way that is in line with what you want, who you are, what you're planning to do, trying to keep things as simple as possible for you, because I think this is very important, because there's always like the maximum version. So we could set up an Aktiengesellschaft, a limited company, and have like, you could rent an office and have like really the max version, or we can keep it simple and just start small and then
Hmm.
build things from there, and decide along the way if we want to add something or leave something out. And I think this is what we did together.
Yes, and I would also add, I think leaving a big corporate, is scary. One could say, it's a common, I think, emotion. that one
Yeah.
has is that you're scared, right? You're scared
Yes.
and you feel like, I'm, going to, I'm going into the unknown. I used to get everything handled by the employer. And that was really something that I mean, also through the conversations that you and I have had, right, that I just learned to let go of that idea that that security can only come from one employer, that there's incredible stability as well from, several multiple income streams. And it just,
Yes.
and there are options out there that aren't difficult. They aren't administratively onerous. It's not like there's even more paperwork. And that was not something that I was aware of. That was something that I thought, oh, uh, if you're self-employed, that equals tons of paperwork.
It
um,
doesn't.
and and it doesn't. It doesn't mean that at all.
Yes, so
Um,
this is maybe a very Swiss special thing because have clients from all over the world, and they, like you, they call me and they say, listen, I'm thinking about like becoming self-employed, going solo. Like, what do I have to do? And I usually answer is like, you have to decide that you want to do it, and then you just do it because yes, welcome, then you're self-employed. There is no registration that you need. There's no
mhm,
permission. You don't get a number or anything else. Anyone can become self-employed, and just by saying, I'm becoming self-employed now. And then, yes, of course, there's things to take care of in terms of social security, in terms of paying taxes. It always depends on if you have a Swiss passport or a permit that is linked to withholding tax or that has been linked to withholding tax, or if you
mhm,
have a C permit. So there might be differences in like the exact how we're going to do it in terms of social security and stuff like that. But in general, it is quite a straightforward thing. The only thing that is maybe different and more complicated towards other countries is, especially to the US, I know that there are freelancers that consider themselves as freelancers and that are called freelancers, but they only have one client. And this is something that in the Swiss system, we consider this as it's kind of a fake freelancer because this person actually is not independent from one employer. It's
mm,
just an employer that is not willing to pay the social security contributions of the employer. Well, this is at least the way the social security department is looking at it. And they are actually trying to protect people from employers that are just saving on their contributions,
mm,
and keeping them from being in this trap of fake self-employment. So someone that has several different clients, this person is considered as a self-employed person. Yes. And there's very little paperwork to apply. And along the way, the most important thing is keep the receipts because there's not going to be any deduction without the receipt. But this is something that is, I think, quite common and easy to understand. Yeah. No receipt, no deduction. But this is in a normal tax declaration, this is the case as well. If we can't prove it, we can't claim it. Yeah. So, do you consider the amount of admin and paperwork that you have to do now? Is this something that keeps you from doing your actual work, or is it something that is a surprisingly little amount of your time?
I mean, as you said, it's surprisingly little. I mean, surprising because that's not what I expected. So I thought, I thought it would be, first of all, there would be tons of paperwork and you're going to make me fill out tons of forms and, sign lots of things that I don't understand. And that, it wasn't like that. It's not like that at all. And that's, you can say, oh, it's, partially, I didn't know the system well enough. And it was great that again, you were kind enough to sort of explain to me the system. This is how you go about it. If that's the kind of activities that I'm planning to continue to do, for example, all the projects that I have ongoing, then this is your best option. If that's the option that you take, then these are the things that you need to, be it receipts
Okay.
or contracts, invoices, all these kinds of things. And that's not, I mean, I don't think that's lots of additional work. I mean, it's certainly nothing that I cannot, already integrate. I'm already doing this, as a mom, as
Yes.
a partner. I am managing the household. So it's
Yeah.
not a significant, it's not a material addition
It's
to
doable.
very doable, very doable,
So
very
would you encourage people that are in a similar situation as you were, let's say, a
doable.
year ago? Would you encourage them to think about building up kind of this portfolio career?
Yes. Yes. I
Yes.
think more and more so. And I would say you really need to ask yourself, and I hope that all women, particularly women who find themselves transitioning, let's say, from
Yeah.
one career setup, one professional setup to potentially another
Hmm.
professional setup, to really ask themselves and to be clear about the kind of life that they want to build and live, and not the kind of work they want to do, and to
Quite a
not
different
be
approach. Yeah.
yes, and to really ask for help from experts. I think we as women have a tendency to do it ourselves, and I think there's an incredible value that you get when you tap experts. I mean, the men do it all the time. Men ask for help from experts. And for me, I think that's a big learning for me as well. And
Yeah.
I am totally signed in on that. You need to get help from experts to not guide you per se, but to show you concretely, very tangibly, look, I understand what you want to do with your life. These are your activities. Here are your options. And at the end of the day, I make the decision what I want to do, what option I want to take, what kind of company I want to build, whether I'm self-employed or, continue to take fractional consulting projects. Yeah, but it's good. It's good to be able to reduce that mental load, and to people who are specialists, who, like you and your team, this is the world you live in, Texas, and you guys find it incredibly fun. And for me, it's sort of okay. It's not where my passions lie, but it's great that that's where your passions are, because that's where we're complementary. I can hand off all the administrative detail to you, and then you help me, you
Yes.
support me along the way.
Yes, so yeah, that's what we're doing. And I think what is important for me is that I put my clients, people like you, in the position to take and to make informed decisions. Because I think decisions based on I have a feeling, or there was another mother in kindergarten that told me, or my neighbor just said, no offense to your neighbor, but unless he is specializing in things like this, he might not be in the position to actually give such advice. And I had clients being so badly advised by their fellow co-workers, not because they were intentively doing harm to them, because they wanted to actually help them, and they told them, yeah, I'm convinced it is like this, and it was not like that at all, like not at all. And yeah, so I think it is quite worth taking the advice of an expert before you make
Yeah.
a mistake that is expensive, or that puts you in a bad position, or like whatever could happen
It
in the
doesn't allow you
situation.
to grow long term, right? It doesn't allow you to grow and become who you want to be. And I think that's the main takeaway, for me, is that the reason why you go to experts is because they know what they're doing, they're dedicated, and they're disciplined in that particular domain. And I find it incredibly helpful. And I think that's the only, for me, that's the only sane approach.
Okay, so I feel honored being part of your sane approach team, and to help you with everything related to this whole world of taxes, social security, self-employment, setting up a company or not setting it up, but like on purpose not setting it up and not just because. And I feel honored that I may do that for you. And I want to thank you for sharing your story and your experiences with us today. Thank you so much. I'm sure there's especially a lot of ex-bankers out there that can probably relate. So that are also coming from this very corporate world that have tons of suits in their closets, but no idea of how to build up a new life now that their job maybe no longer exists in this very form. And I hope that a story like yours maybe encourages people to think differently. And yeah, as you said, to not think how do I want to work, but how do I want to live and build your work around this, and how this can also be a chance. Although it might be intimidating and challenging in the beginning, but yeah, so if there is topics that I or that we can help with to make this easier and easier to achieve, more approachable and less fearful, we are here. I encourage everyone that is in a similar situation to just give us a call or book an intro call with us, and then we can discuss your situation as well. And thanks again, Xenia, and all the best for your future. Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye.